Welcome to ActiveRain University. Today we're going to talk about answering those frequently asked questions. My name is Bob Stewart. If you guys have been on the classes before, you've heard me. You know that I'm the community evangelist at ActiveRain, and you know that if you talk to me on Twitter at ActiveBob, I'll get back to you. So why are you joining us today? Well, first we're going to talk about how to write an FAQ post. And in these blogging blueprint classes in the past, we've given you guys kind of a blueprint, and sometimes it's been just something you can download and look at to kind of gauge what you're doing. Sometimes it's been like an HTML piece of code that you can place into your blog and then kind of manipulate to make it fit how you want. We're not actually going to do that today, and the reason is there is a ton of variety in how you can go about answering frequently asked questions. So I'm going to give you guys kind of some best practices, and we'll look at a post that I put together that answers an FAQ. But we're not going to give you the kind of blueprint that we've been giving you in the past. We're just going to give you a bunch of kind of tips and pointers and things that you want to make sure that you have in an FAQ post. And again, the reason I do that is because there's a lot of variety in the kind of questions you would get first off, but also how you might go about answering those. So we're just going to kind of give you some framework within which to work. And then we're going to talk about what else can you do with these posts once you write them. Okay, so it's not just a matter, and I think a lot of times, and we have a whole class about this, but a lot of times we get sucked into that belief that, God, if we write something and we do it well, right, and we hope that we do it well in terms of like SEO and how to get it to rank in the search engines, that then we just sit back and hope that people find the post. And especially with these kinds of posts, these frequently asked questions that you know that your clients are asking you, over and over, or that people are going to the internet and asking, maybe there's some other things we can do with these posts. So we'll talk about some of the other kind of places that you might consider using these. And then we're not going to talk too much on today's call about what you can write about. However, we have, and I believe it went out actually in the email this morning, we have a PDF that I kind of put together, and it's based on searches that have sent people to ActiveRain over the last 30 days, and just kind of a variety of question type searches. So we're looking at words like what is, or how do, or why, or right, some of these different kinds of questions that people ask. And when you get that PDF later and you download it and you take a look at it, similar to the way we did with the Homes for Sale PDF that we've done in the past, not every question that gets asked is going to be on there, right? I mean, it'd almost be impossible for us to put together a PDF that had every single question that somebody might potentially ask of you, but it gives you a good starting point. I mean, there's some things that you could just answer, definitely. There's questions on there that will very much apply to your everyday business, but there's other things that are just kind of conceptual where you say, look, if on that PDF you see somebody looking for, what are property tax rates in Seattle? Well, you're not going to write about that, right? You're going to write about what are property tax rates in my neck of the woods. So we'll give you that PDF or access to that PDF at the end. You've already gotten it, I believe, in your email. All right, so I'm going to give away a couple of ActiveRain t-shirts to somebody during the call today that either tweets us or goes to our Facebook page and puts something that you learned today. So if you use Twitter, you can say at ActiveRain, I learned that Bob has a jetpack Wi-Fi, or MiFi, I guess they call them. Whatever, you can tweet us or leave something on the Facebook page, and it's just facebook.com/ActiveRain, and I'll just go through and randomly pick out 2 folks, and then I'll respond to you either on Facebook or on Twitter and ask for your address, and Michelle will get you guys out a couple of ActiveRain t-shirts. So now let's go in and actually look at the post. So we're going to do this live, and you can tell that I'm not set up here because I was frantically trying to get back into GoToMeeting. Okay, so what is a homestead exemption? And so this is the post that we're going to look at. This is answering a frequently asked question, and this is a question that we see coming into ActiveRain, and we see it coming in from a lot of different states. And the first thing that I want to focus on is the title of our post. And I'm not actually going to make this post live because I wrote this and I kind of put it together based on some resources from some different places, but I don't want to make it live because I don't necessarily want to be answering this question for people, okay? And some of the demonstration posts that I've done in the past about condo complexes or subdivisions, those posts rank on the first page of the search engines, and those posts have actually generated leads for me, which I feel a little bit guilty about because I'm not in a position to be able to help them find a condo or find a home in that specific subdivision, so I don't really want to be in a position to answer their question about what is a homestead exemption. Now, let's look at the title of this post, though, and when you're writing FAQs, okay, or when you're writing answers to FAQs, the title of your post, and again, this is stuff that we learn about in our SEO class, but we want to be answering the question with our title or we want to be presenting the question as somebody would go to Google and ask the same question. Okay, so somebody wouldn't go to Google and say, homestead exemptions are a way to get a reduction on our taxes, right? So to really think about your title in terms of how would the person ask the question when they went to Google, right? They would never go and ask the question with the answer somewhere in the question. Okay, they would simply ask the question of Google. So we want our title because that's the first thing that the search engine is looking at, right? Our title becomes our page title. Okay, and if we were getting to this post specifically, you can see the page title on my tab here, right? That's the page title of this blog. It's the first thing the search engine looks at to determine, you know, if I was going to rank this, what is this about? And in this case, it's about what is a homestead exemption, just like somebody would ask the question when they went to Google. Then what are we going to do? Well, we're going to repeat the title, right? And this is something that we learned in our blogging blueprint class, and I'll give you guys, if you've never joined us, in our boot camp class, if you've never joined us for the boot camp series, we're going to be starting another one of those in June. At the end of this call, I'll show you how to join that. But we also have videos of these things out there. But essentially in our SEO component of the boot camp class, we talk about restating our title, right? Because that becomes a part of the page description. The next little section that I have in here is really designed for this part of the search engines. And when you look in here, or you've done a search, and every single one of us on this call has done a Google search, I would guess, or maybe there's a couple of us that use like Yahoo or something, but you're going to see something similar in all of the search engines in that they give you this description right here. Okay, and this description comes out of the first about 120 characters. And so what I want to try to do with this first little portion of the blog is let them know what they're going to find if they click on this from the search engines. So I'm letting them know, hey, this is a blog post that will give you all the answers and allow you to ask specific questions about homestead exemptions. Okay, I do that to kind of set it up so that if they see it, maybe it's you know, in the 3rd position or the 4th position or something. I want that page part they see right here to let them know what they're going to get if they click. Okay, so we're not answering the question just yet, right? We're just letting them know, hey, this is what you're going to get if you click here. And we do this mainly, again, for the search engines and that page description that they show in their results. Okay? The next little piece that we have in here then is these subheaders. And I've got a couple of subheaders in here, okay? I've got my restate of my title, and that's in blue, and that's because I put an H1 header tag on this thing. Okay, that's going to be important. You want to get an H1 header tag from our SEO class around your keyword phrase. But these subheaders then are going to kind of break the post up and let somebody know kind of where would they go if they want specific pieces of information, okay? I love using subheaders like this because they make the page look a little bit more professional and presentable, and it doesn't just feel like this huge wall of words, okay? These things break the post up. You'll notice I put good white space around them, so I might use like an extra shift return or something like that to give myself just a little bit more white space just to break that page up, okay? We want it looking professional and presentable so that when somebody lands on here, they feel like they can get answers to their questions without going cross-eyed looking at this huge explanation with just straight typing. Okay, the next piece is I answer the question. So the basics of a homestead exemption, what is it, okay? And I had a lady yesterday who sent me an email and she said, you know, in your SEO classes, you talk a lot about using some kind of a geography in the post. So we talk about subject matter and geography, and in this particular case, we're really dealing with, you know, mainly right now, the subject matter component of a search. But what happens is there always be, not always, a lot of times there will become a geographical component to a post. Okay, because if I'm writing about homestead exemptions, the reality is I'm probably writing about them as it relates to where I do business. Okay, so what we're going to do is on these pages, right, or in our FAQs, we're not necessarily going to target that in the title. Okay, we want to make these things a little bit broad because let's say we only do business in Seattle. We might still be able to answer that question for a wider set of people. But what we're going to do is in the post itself, we're going to talk about, and I kind of do it in the second main section here, we're going to talk about how answering this question relates to our specific market. And in doing that, we're going to get traffic, and the search engine's going to realize that while the whole post itself talks about homestead exemptions, we're talking about it as it's specific to our market inside of the body of the post. And while granted, a search engine will kind of look at this as the main thing to rank it for, it will also give consideration to what's in here. And what you will find is Google's really smart, okay? And they're really good at figuring out where a person is and trying to get them information that's relevant to where that person is. So if they're sitting in their home, like in the state that you do business, okay, and they do the query, Google's going to look at the page and they're going to try to figure out on this page, does it relate to where that person is, and can we get them more relevant details? Because even if they just do a general search like what is a homestead exemption, well, if they're in Texas or if they're in Michigan or if they're in one of these states that has that, Google's trying to search this page and figure out, well, is there something in here that relates to where that person is searching from? Okay, because if they're doing the search in Texas, right, Google's going to look on that page to try to find information relevant to Texas, and if it can't find something relevant to Texas, it may give them a more general search like ours, right, which doesn't actually have Texas information in it, it has Michigan information in it. But this is a way that you can, right, by later on in the post, so we've got, first we're just going to answer what is a homestead exemption. Okay, later on in the post, or down a little bit further, we're going to make it specific to our marketplace. Now, this is not a hard and fast rule, okay? There may be times when you may have decided, you know what, I'm just going to make my title, what is a homestead exemption in Michigan? You can definitely do that, but if you want to be a little bit more general, you can also do that, and then later on in the post, bring it back to your specific market. And again, I try to do that with a subheader here, right? And so if somebody was actually looking for, you know, something specific to their state, hopefully when they land on this page, it's going to be very easy for them to get an idea that, look, down here, I talk about the specifics of that particular state or that particular city or that particular area. Okay, so first little paragraph, right? I just give them kind of the page description, let them know when they see it in Google what they're going to get here. I answer the question. One of the things that's becoming more and more common, I think, is people want information quickly. And the reason that I use like numbers or I use these bullet points, and these are lists, right? The reason I do this is because when somebody lands here, I want them to just be able to kind of hit the 1, 2, 3s or hit the bullet points and be able to pull out some good information. This may lead them into saying, okay, yeah, that answered a little bit what I'm looking for, and get them to actually read the whole thing. Okay, so these quick little bullets, these quick numbers, these are just I don't want to call them a ploy, but they're a way for us to quickly serve up information and to get people to read a little bit further. Now I've got one image here. You know, I always use one image in my posts. And the reason I do that, and I've talked about this in previous classes, but the reason I do that is when I go out and I go to really any kind of a media website. So that might be, I go to ESPN, or I go to, I know that's funny that I would use ESPN, but CNN or Fox News or WallStreetJournal.com or New York Times. They don't use tons of images in there, right? Generally, if they're using any images, they're using one, and they're positioning it something similar to how I've done here and kind of wrap the text around the image, giving good white space here. Another thing that I very rarely do, which I see, you know, I see probably more people do than I would like to see on ActiveRain, I don't use any kind of crazy text in my posts. And me, personally, when I'm looking for a professional opinion on something online, I don't want to see a bunch of crazy text. I don't want to see different types of fonts. I don't want to see color in there. Like, I believe that trusted sources use text and color that's basic, right? And I would challenge you right now, go out and find a trusted source that you look at, TechCrunch, or really any type of online resource that's become trusted. They don't use different kinds of text. They use very standard sorts of text, right? And they don't use crazy colors. So when you're writing these types of posts, I would really encourage you, like, think about your text in terms of how does it look like other trusted resources out on the web. Okay, so then again, in the second portion of this, I'm going to get in and talk about it specific to my marketplace. Okay, I'm going to answer the FAQ specific to my marketplace. So in the beginning, I'm going to give a more general answer to the FAQ, and then I'm going to really drill down on it and give some specifics that are based on my experience, my expertise, as it relates to my specific market. Okay, I pull a couple of bullet points out of here again because I just want to highlight things that maybe I even talked about those things in my answer, but the bullet points are there so that when somebody first lands here, as they search these bullet points, right, I'm going to pull the most important parts of my answer out and place them in this kind of bullet pointed fashion. I don't want to do the whole post in bullet points. Okay, Google, again, they're just getting so smart, and as they look at blog posts, as they look at pages on the internet and determine how they're going to rank them, they are looking at things like sentence structure. They are looking at things like paragraph structure. They are looking at just, you know, proper usages of word. I mean, they're getting so good at being able to determine what is a valuable piece of content that we want to make sure that we don't just use bullet points, right? That we have some good sentences in there, that we have some good structure to our paragraphs, that we have good white space on the page, and all of these things are starting to play into how they return results, right? Because the spam sites out there, they're the types of sites that, you know, that scrape things and pull little bullet points and put together these pages that aren't necessarily visually that appealing. So we want to make sure that we're able to rise above that clutter by having good layout, good white space, good paragraphs, good formatting. And then down here at the bottom, I'm going to link to some related resources. And there's a couple of people on ActiveRain that do this very well. And this takes a little bit of extra effort, okay? Because when I first wrote this post, there's a couple of times in here where the post talks about determining if the property is your primary residence. I might not have this post, right? And this is a link to, this would be, in this case, I don't have the post because this is a demo, but this would be a link to another post I'd written. There was a frequently asked question of how do you determine if a property is your primary residence, right? In the related resources, I encourage you to, now if you're getting started, each time you write a blog post, you might think of, well, here's another blog post that I want to write. Because as I was writing this, it became very obvious to me that there was a few times when I talked about the home being a primary residence. So I probably need to have another piece of content that relates to or answers the question of how do you determine if your home is a primary residence, right? So if you have a big library of content that you've already written, I would encourage you with each of your posts, really think about what other resources could you give that person. And this doesn't always, more often than not, you would want it to be something you've written, right? So that if they start to follow these paths, and they're really interested, right? This is somebody that's really wanting to get information about this, and they start clicking around, and you've answered their question about homestead exemptions, but in reading this, they wanted to try to figure out, well, shoot, I don't know, I live here half the year, I don't live here half the year, can I qualify for this? Is it my primary residence, right? And they start leading around. You want to lead them to other places where you answer their questions, right? It'd be really easy for us to lead them out and let them, get the answer on the treasurer's website or the local government website or something like that. But you want to try to keep them with you, right, to give them an expanded view of you as an expert. So these related resources, and these are things where you can go back to older posts that you've written and start to add these additional links and these additional kind of resources in there, right? So if I didn't have this post written when I publish this post, fine, I don't put the link there, but once I write this post, I want to come back and think, where can I use this post in some of the other content that I've already created? Okay, I've got another, like there was an update to the Homestead Exemption Act, and I had written a blog post about it. Well, when I write that blog post subsequently, I'm going to come back and find the original piece that I've written, and I'm going to get that added in there as a related resource. And then somewhere in these posts, and some of you guys will have this stuff in your signature line, for instance, but I think it's important to get it kind of closer into the body of the post. I'm going to give them a chance to search for listings, right? Because a lot of these FAQs that you guys are answering, like how to get qualified for a home loan, or what documentation do I need to buy a house, or a lot of these questions that you answer might potentially lead somebody to think, all right, I want to start looking at houses. Like if somebody landed in here and the post was about what documents do I need to buy a house, and they read my post and they realize they have all those documents, right? I want to give them a chance to just search for listings in my area. Okay, and in our calls to action class that we do at the blogging boot camp, we talk about where these things should link to and how this all works. But these related resources are important because, again, we want to just get people to believe we are the expert. And answering one question might not do that, but leading them on a path that gets them to more answers can really start to solidify us as an expert in their mind. Okay, and then the next portion down here is the ability for somebody to ask us a specific question. And I've used this similar formatting, and this is a woo-foo form. I'm going to show you how to create one of these, and it's really simple. Okay, I've used this in some other classes that we do. But consumers aren't as likely to leave responses or ask questions in comment form as they are to privately ask you a question. Okay, and so if we didn't have this here, their options would be they could email us, right? So there's like an email functionality over here. They could maybe pick the phone up and call us. But this gives them just a quick way to ask us a question, right? And get an answer in some expected time frame. And so I would encourage you that when you create a form like this, and again, I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second, okay, make sure you set some expectations in this form. So do you have a specific question about a homestead exemption? Again, just another kind of subheader that I'm using here, right? In the form itself, I'm going to let them know when they can expect an answer. Okay, and then I'm going to, oops, I should have titled that, what's your question? And we can do that when I fix it here. Right, it gives them a chance to ask a question. So, how much would the exemption be in Chelsea? $200,000 house, I don't know. right? They don't have to leave their name, but maybe they do. Maybe they say, well, my name's Bob. And then they have to leave their email address. Okay, when they hit submit on this, what I've done is and there's a variety of ways that you can do this. What I've done with this particular form is I've actually triggered an email that just went out to this person right now that gives them a link to a city website or a state website that gives them a bunch of FAQs on homestead exemptions. I could show you that email, but I don't know where my email's at. And then I also give them a message here, right? Just again, kind of reinforcing when I'm going to get them an answer. Okay, let's go in and look at how to build one of these forms really quick. And it's super simple, okay? Woofoo.com, and so WUFOO.com, woofoo.com. Okay, and I'm logged into my Woofoo, and it's a free service. Okay, any of you guys can set up a Woofoo account pretty easily. I'm going to come in here and say new form. Okay, I need to title my form, and so I just click over here on the title, and it says, hey, untitled form. So I'm going to call this, ask me a question. Then the description, let me know what your question is. All right. Again, this is just the stuff that shows up. Oh, let's see if we can get that to reload. Hopefully, yeah. This is the stuff that shows up in this little area right here at the top. Okay. Then I need to come in and build a field. So I'm going to add a field up here, right? And I'm going to add a paragraph of text. So I'm going to let them type their question into this paragraph of text. Then I click on this to title it. So this is the step that I missed last time. So okay, come back here. Let's add another field. So the next field, maybe we'd add name. Then we'd add email address. Okay, so my form's starting to kind of come together. Now, for name, I did not make that required, but these two fields, I want to make them required. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on email here and see these little options. I'm going to make it required. Okay? I could even leave instructions so that if I wanted to leave instructions, there would be a little queue that showed up here, but nobody needs instructions for email, right? Over here on my form settings, down here for confirmation options, now what I did is I showed them text. So I said, great, thanks for filling out my form. I'll get you an answer before 5 unless it's late, then I'll get it to you first thing in the morning or something like that. We can also redirect them to a website, so that form could redirect them to wherever we wanted them to go, right? What I also did on this is I left it as show text, but I also sent a confirmation email. So I'm going to send it to their email address. I'm going to leave a reply to as my email address. And then I can customize that thing to say whatever I want. So in my case, I did something like, if you'd like, or thanks for filling out my form, or thanks for asking a question, whatever. You can also find an FAQ of, frequently asked questions about this at the, the Michigan Treasurer's website or something. And I come in here and I type in the Michigan Treasurer's website, right? My name's Bob. Done. So I've got this message now that's going to go out to somebody when they ask a question. So, okay, my form's done here, right? And again, there's all sorts of stuff that you could add in here, okay? I'm going to save my form. So I'm finished, right? And now my form appears right here. Ask me a question, okay? Then I need to get it into my blog post itself. And so what I can do is I can come in here and do code. And I want to use this embed form code, and I'm going to use this iframe version. Okay, so I copy that. And let me actually use this one that that I already did here for this. So this is the one from today, and this is my entry that I just put in there that you guys were watching me do, right? So let's grab the code from that. I'm going to grab this embed code, and I'm going to take it back to my blog post. Let me just log in as this real quick. So I'm going to take it back to my blog post. I'm going to edit my blog post down here. And so this is this is what this thing would look like. Let me just get rid of it real quick, the form that I already have in here. So I went to my HTML, and I'll do this again in a second, but I need to get rid of the form that's already there. Right, so now this post looks like my FAQ without the form in there. Right, the form's gone. But I've put the header in there, right? This is a header that I built in when I was building the blog post. Now I'm going to come down here and edit this post, and I've saved the iframe version of the embed code. Okay, and this is, I realize if you've never done this, it's kind of like embed form. That sounds complicated. iframe, this sounds complicated. It's all this code. I don't know how to do this stuff. It's not that hard. I'm just copying and pasting what they already have in here for me. I'm going to come down here to the bottom, and this is where I want to place it, right after, and then I'm going to go into HTML. So see this little button right here? I'm going to open this up. This is the same place I would go if I wanted to like place a YouTube video or something like that. I'm just going to come down here to the very bottom, and right after where I say, do you have a specific question, I am going to paste in that iframe. Okay? Now I'm going to update it. When I update this, it's going to look like it doesn't work. And when I go down here and post it, it is actually going to work. Right? There's my form, but you notice it's floating out there. It's kind of this white space on white space. It's taken up the whole page. It doesn't look like what mine looked like just a minute ago with the border around it. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to come down here and I'm going to manipulate this code a little bit. So I've got my HTML code in here. That's big, isn't it? Let's make that a little bit smaller. Okay. I've got my HTML code in there, and it's at the very bottom is this iframe. This is it. So right now the width is 100%. I'm going to make mine 75%. Okay, the border is none. So how do I get a border around here? Well, you guys remember earlier, like my photo right here has a border around it. Now, I don't know the exact code, like I'm not sure what this is, so what I do, because I'm not an HTML expert by any means, I come up here to my photo, and here's the code for my photo. Okay, somewhere in here is the border code. See that? Border 4 pixels solid black. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this 4 pixels solid black. I'm going to come down here to the bottom, and I'm going to make my border, instead of none, I'm going to make it 4 pixels solid black. So I've changed the width, I've given it a border, now I'm going to hit update. See that thing? And now it's left justified. I'm actually going to click on that, I'm going to center it up. So now I've got a border, that's 75% of the width of the post. I centered it. I'm going to come down here and post this thing. And then it's going to appear there like we want it. So we're giving them a chance to ask us questions, right? And I showed you how to get a Wufoo form, and you guys can use these forms for anything, really. But, you know, obviously you want the form to relate to what the post is about. I don't have to say that. That's kind of goes without saying. So let's kind of recap what are those important things, right? We want the title to mirror the question. We do this because we need to think about how does somebody go to Google and ask the question, okay? We want to use headers and subheaders, right? We want to have a way to kind of break that post up so that if somebody's looking for specific information in there, that it's easy for them to kind of digest that post, okay? First 120 characters tells them what to expect. Right? And we do that because when they get that result in Google, we want them to know what they're going to get when they click on this. Right? We want to provide some links to additional resources or blog posts that we've written. We want to use lists or bullet points to give some quick facts. We don't want the whole thing to be bullet points, right? We want to use good, proper paragraph structure, sentence structure, that sort of thing. We want to have good white space on there, and I'll kind of wrap in, I think, literally, I encourage you, if you're one of those people that uses, you like to personalize it, you like to have the fancy text styles, and you like to have colors, go look at any other news resource that you actually trust and if you can find one that uses crazy text and colors, please email it to me. I'd love to see it. I don't see those out there. Okay? And news organizations don't think they haven't spent a lot of money trying to figure out what kind of text people want to read or what kind of colors they want to see on the page, black, for their text. Okay? Use some kind of an image, and I didn't talk too much about the image I used, but the reason I place an image in there is because I want that page to kind of draw them in, right? When they land there, I just want it to be formatted in a professional, presentable fashion, similar to the, all the other sites I see out there that I know people are going to and trusting for the information that they give. And then we want to allow them to ask us questions in a fashion that's not the comment section, because again, consumers are just not very likely to leave a comment like that, because then it's out there for everybody to see. Okay, so where do we put these things? So once we have them, okay, why do we do these FAQs to begin with? I think the main reason you do these is because you get asked these questions more than once, right? You guys could probably all, and the PDF that I'm going to give you is not by any means like the top 10 questions that people ask. You know what those are, and from market to market, these things are different, because in Washington, nobody's asking about homestead exemptions. We don't have them. Okay? So in your different markets, you know what the questions are that you get asked, right? And a lot of these things are very general, what documents do I need to get a loan? What things should I do to get my house ready to sell, right? Like, I would suggest that you get 5 or 8 FAQs, and think about them in terms of, go back in your email, look at your email. What kind of questions have your clients emailed you? Think about when you're riding in the car, what kinds of questions are they asking you? You know what these questions are in your market, okay? The reason we answer them in a blog then is because what happens when somebody emails us is we just respond, right? And if we took 10 minutes or 15 minutes to put together a bunch of links and resources and respond to them with an email, we've educated one person, and that email is not going to get to anybody else. Okay, it's going to live in that person's inbox and educate that one person. If we took that same amount of time to gather the resources that we were going to email to that person and put them in a blog post, and then instead of just emailing them back the answer, now we could do that, right? But we would also want to put it in a blog post. So maybe you sent it to that one person as an email, but then you have your blog post that you've put up because you took the time to answer the question, you took the time to investigate it, to pull together a couple links to send them to, right? Why not have that answer out there for anybody else who asked that same question, of the search engines? But we don't stop there, okay? Some of these frequently asked questions are so important that you want to place them in some other spots. And so one of the places you can do that is on the sidebar of your blog. So let's go over here and look at the sidebar of our blog. Right here on the sidebar is links. Okay, and we give you a chance to put in, you can put in as many as you want in here, but it's really easy to add links. And so on the ActiveRain University page, our links are for important classes that we offer, right? So how to get your content to rank, SEO, how to pick keywords, right? These are the links back to our blog posts that kind of answer these questions. How to capture leads with your blog, get fresh ideas of what to blog about. Okay, these are the links that are important for ActiveRain University. For your business, those might be links to frequently asked questions or answers for frequently asked questions. So in order to add or remove links, you're just going to come in here and hit add or remove links. Right, and then we're given this little page that kind of dictates, so, Homestead, what is Homestead exemption? Oops, that's the link. We want the link text to go there, and then we would put the link in here, so ActiveRain.com, right? We would have wanted to have grabbed the, there it is, boom. Paste our link in there. So link text, link, add it. And then we can manipulate the order of these things. So you'll want to kind of order them based on which one you believe to be the most important. So let's say this is the most important. I'm just going to bring it up the list here. All right, so really think about this sidebar and what are the important things that you want to get in here. Look, a lot of you guys have done these posts already, right? I mean, if you've written 100 posts on ActiveRain, and there might be some folks on there that go, oh my goodness, 100, that seems like a lot. But there's probably people on this call that have 500 posts you've written on ActiveRain. I really want you to think about this sidebar in terms of what's some of the most important content I want to get in front of people no matter what they're reading on my blog, right? I want to always kind of have those important posts over here on the right-hand side of my blog. And if we were to refresh this page now, we're going to see our Homestead post show up in here. So that's one real obvious place we can put them. Another one is in other blog posts. Okay, there's a guy, Mike Cooper. He does a really good job at the bottom of his posts. Let's go out here and find Mike real quick. He does a really good job at the bottom of his posts of including some answers to frequently asked questions or important blog posts that he wants to make sure that people see every time they read something of his. And I think he does this in his signature line because as I looked at different posts of his, he had the same sorts of blogs in each one. You don't have to do something where you put it in your signature line and it's the same set of posts for every blog. What you might consider doing is in each post, think about what are some additional posts that might be relevant to this topic, right? And then pull those posts in on a one-by-one basis. So each time I write a post, when I get done writing it, I think, what other posts do I have in my history or my catalog that I could potentially drop into here that makes sense, right? And sometimes you might write a blog post, like let's say I write this one today. I might take a chance to go back and edit some of my older posts and add this as a resource in my older posts. So each time I write one of these FAQs, I need to think about, like, how does this post relate to the overall ecosystem of all of my posts? And don't be scared to go back and update an older post to add in, right, some additional resources down here, some related resources at the bottom. And then you can share these things on social networks, these types of posts, right? We do a whole class on how to share content online. I'm not going to go over kind of the specifics of how you share a post on Facebook or how you share a post on Twitter, or why you'd want to do that, or who you'd want to share it with. Those are all things to consider. But you can definitely put these kinds of posts out there, right? If these are frequently asked questions from your clients, right, these are going to be questions that other people want the answers to too. Here's the thing about frequently asked questions. It's kind of funny in this business because you guys do a lot of things that become such second nature that you don't realize everybody else doesn't know the answers to them. We're doing a contest right now, or a challenge on ActiveRain, where I'm asking you guys to write about how you go about getting referrals. And one of the answers that's been in a lot of the blog posts has been, I sit down with my clients, like my buyers, and I inform them on how I'm paid. Right? We just assume, I think a lot of us, because we're dealing with people all day long and we're in real estate all the time, that people know how a real estate agent gets paid. The reality is a lot of people don't. Right? So a lot of these FAQs, to you, the answers are second nature, but to other people out there, they're not. And when I look through some of the questions that lead people back to ActiveRain, I'm shocked in a lot of cases, like, what is earnest money? Right? All of us know what earnest money is, and it's second nature, and I think a lot of us think, oh, well, everybody knows what earnest money is. It's the money you put up to ensure the contract and ensure performance in the contract, but there's a lot of folks out there that don't know these answers. Right? What is an FHA loan? There's so many of these questions that people go online to get answered, but it doesn't hurt to share these things around in some of the places that you're social. Okay, we're going to do questions here in a minute. I want to kind of give you guys a couple of kind of places to go. Okay, so this is probably the 7th or 8th blueprint class that we've done. Okay, we've done them on how to write about condo complexes, subdivisions, how to write about community events, how to write about local businesses. We've done them on how to do market reports. We've done them on how to blog about your listing. And then starting in June, we'll start another of our bootcamp series, which is just 3 core classes that we believe are fundamental for you to make sure that your blog is performing for you. In the first class, we do SEO, how to get a blog post to rank in the search engines. Okay, I teach you, here's the fundamentals of how to write a blog post to get it ranking on the first page. The second class, we talk about keywords and how to select keyword phrases so that you're writing about things that will get you in front of consumers in your marketplace. And in the third class, we do calls to action, or what are some of the things that you need to make sure you're doing in your blog posts so that when somebody lands there, you're able to turn them into a prospect or lead for your business. Okay, that's our bootcamp series, and you can go to activerain.com/bootcamp to either get signed up for the live classes that we'll have coming up in June, or to watch video recordings of the past classes that we've done in the series. Between now and then, have an awesome time in real estate. On behalf of Michelle and Carrie, who's on her honeymoon, I'm super jealous. My name's Bob. You guys have a great weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.